Ooh, whoa. Anyway, so we just learned how to, look at purchasing inventory and be able to journalize it and being able to place it into our inventory worksheet. So this is the inventory worksheet that we're going to be using, right? It's broken up to 3 sections, right? We have our purchases at the top right here. Then we have inventory on hand. This is for our beginning inventory. And then we have 3 more columns down here. We have the column where we calculate our cost of goods sold. We also have this section right here. This is your workspace. So however you want to, have your ideas down here, you can put it right here. And then down here is going to be where your returns and allowances are going to take place. Now, once again, I just want you to try to get used to just being able to plug in your numbers. And once we get to chapter 5, that's where we will take a look at making returns and allowances. Okay. But for now, let's go ahead and just go through each scenario here. So, yeah. All right. So what we're going to do is for the first transaction, or for the first, month of transactions, I want you to, let's practice journalizing and etc. Okay. And then the second one we can just not do, except for just the conversion entry. So let's practice journalizing and then we'll go from there. Okay. So first things first, here on April 5th, we decided to purchase 1,000 units at $5 each, with a freight costing $100. Now, once again, you do have the option, okay? But how I would actually recommend you to do is go to your journal first, then place everything into your inventory worksheet, and then go back to your journal and plug in your numbers, okay? Because oftentimes a lot of students, what they do is they see this scenario, they go straight to the inventory worksheet, and then they forget to journalize their transaction. So let's just do that for the first couple times here. So let's go from the journal to the worksheet, then back to the journal, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so on April 5th, we purchased 1,000 units at $5 each, with a freight costing $100. So let's go to the general journal, right? And let's practice journalizing this transaction. So April 5th. All right, so what did we do?
We purchased 5,000. I mean, we purchased $5,000. What 1,000 times 5?
Mm-hmm. So what should be my journal?
In your description, you'll put the what you purchased, the purchase of 1,000 items.
Okay, so that will be your description, or like in parentheses, but what accounts will I be using?
What?
What accounts will I be using to represent that I am making a purchase? Good. Purchase expense.
Oh, okay.
All right. Which you said was $5,000. So here, because we could use Excel, right? I can actually type in 1,000 times my $5, and I'd be able to produce the same exact answer. Okay. It's up to you what you want to do here. Okay. Once again, I'll give you guys the option to either do your calculations here, or when we go dive right into the inventory worksheet, you can also enter your answers, do your calculations there and then enter it into your journal. But for now, let's just practice this first. So freight expense. How much was my freight expense?
1,000.
It was just 100.
Standard. Okay.
Yes. So therefore, I wasn't specific, right? Let's see. Okay, so your inventory method is periodic and FIFO. Assume that all purchases were made on an account. So now I need to go back to my journal. So I place this on an account. So what am I going to place here? What account am I going to use?
Account payable.
Accounts payable. All right. And here, if you want to, you can just add them all up, or you could just type in 5100. All right. You have options and variety when it comes to using Excel for this. Right. I also want to make a note, all right, that I purchased 1,000 units at $5 each. Okay. So here is my journal. All right. So now that I have the first step completed, now I'm going to go ahead and use my inventory worksheet. So inventory worksheet here, make sure you're on question number 1. I'm going to make it a little bigger. There you go. So first thing here is we're going to write in the date. So it's April 5th, right? What was the quantity?
1,000.
1,000. At what unit price?
$5.
$5. Okay. And what was my freight expense?
$100.
$100. Okay. So here, once again, these are all blank types of worksheets, so you may need to format it if necessary. All right. I like to use comma style, right? Because comma style allows you to show you 2 decimal places. If you prefer the dollar sign, you can use accounting, right? You can use currency, where the difference between currency and accounting is that the dollar sign is actually right next to the number, where the accounting is the dollar sign's left aligned. Right? That's the only difference between them, but you can use whatever method that you like, preferably whatever you like. I'll just use accounting style for now. But once again, these are all subjective to how you guys like to see your worksheet. So I'm not going to require you to do any fixtures, but you may need to do a few changes here and there, because sometimes you can display things, or some things, like if, for example, when we actually dive into moving average or weighted average, excuse me, we will need to see those decimal places. So if you guys are familiar of how to show your decimal places right here, you could go to show more decimals or show less decimals. And once again, those are going to be when we keep moving on forth, all right? So here is the very first one. So we're going to be looking at purchase price. What is my formula for purchase price?
It should be quantity times unit price.
Correct. In this case, I'm going to directly cell reference. I'm going to take my quantity and I'm going to multiply it by my unit price. So I'm taking this 1,000 and I'm multiplying it by my $5, right? And I'm going to go ahead and press enter, and it will automatically format for me in dollar bill sign saying it is $5,000. Now, if you guys are a little more advanced, I believe you guys do learn it in the basics of accounting. For this exact worksheet, you can autofill this formula all the way down. So every time you enter in a piece of information, it will automatically calculate the formula for you. All right. So once again, if I tap on this, right, I'm using simple math. I'm literally taking one cell and I'm taking my asterisk, which is my multiplication, and I'm clicking on another cell. And that's going to determine to me my quantity times my unit price. And there it goes. I click enter and it gives me 5,000. All right. Next section here is, how do I determine what my total cost is? What's my formula?
You add the rate.
Yes, purchase price plus freight. So right here, I click on my purchase price and I'm doing the plus sign and clicking on the freight. So in this case, my total cost is going to be $5,100. All right. And then last but not least, I need to create or I need to calculate my cost per item. So what's my formula here?
Total cost divided by quantity.
Correct. So using the division, right, which is the slash, all right, I'm going to type it in like that. That's what I mean by basic level of math. You're literally just using the symbols. Okay? The most I'll do is equal sum, and I'll show you about in a few seconds, right? So, here we go. We have it at $5.10 each. Now, you can display if this is an even number. In this case, it is an even number, right? It goes in evenly, $5.10. But when we take a look at our weighted average, we're going to notice that we're going to be starting to calculate numbers that are not easily divisible. Okay, and that's where we have to make the executive decision whether we're going to round up or round down. Now, in this class, I will teach you to round at the very end. You're not going to round as you go, you're going to round at the very end. So, once again, we'll go through it. I'm not going to round this number, it's already rounded for me. And I only want to display so and so numbers here. Okay? So now that we have this purchase right here, right? We broke it down. We have our correct information, right? And like I said, when you go into your journal, you can just complete the calculations there and then you can either self-reference it or type it in. So you don't have to do the calculations twice. All right? You could save some time there. Okay? But now, here we are. We have our first batch, and we associate it with $5.10. Okay? Now, if you like to use colors, you can go ahead and do so by saying maybe this batch is going to be color yellow for now, just to represent what happens when you actually look at this first batch. But I'm going, for now, for today, do you guys want to use colors or are you guys okay looking at it like this?
The colors are good.
Okay, so let's work on this. So this is the first batch that we bought, right? So what color do you want to use?
Okay, I'll go with the yellow.
Yellow. Okay, we'll go with yellow. Okay, so that's my very first batch that I've purchased, and we're assuming that we're starting from ground zero. So there is my first batch. All right. Let's see what happened next. Okay. April 10, you purchased 750 units at $5.75. Freight is going to cost you $75. All right. So once again, this is what I'm going to give you the option, right? I'm going to journalize it first, right? At least journalize the foundation. Okay? So by journalizing the foundation, what I mean is what should you be expected to have in your journal for this scenario? We know there's a purchase expense involved. We know there's a freight expense involved, and we know that we placed it on an account. So in this case, right, because we're using Excel, right, we have the capabilities to copy, cut, paste, whatever. It makes it easier for us to do our calculations or compute our journals, right? We can do that. So if I select this, I copy and paste it here, I know for a fact that on April 10, I'm expected to have a purchase expense, a freight expense, and I'm expected to have an accounts payable. However, I know that my description is going to look different, right? Your PR numbers, right? If we were using account numbers, in this case we're not because we're just practicing journalizing, it'd be a lot easier for you to just copy and paste all of the work for you. So instead of having to type everything out, you do have the capability because we're using, software, right? We're using technology that allows us to copy and paste and save some time. So there we have it. I copied and pasted that I'm going to have a purchase expense, a freight expense, and an accounts payable. All right. Now, like I've mentioned before, I don't want to calculate now. I'm going to go to my inventory worksheet first, do my calculations there, and then paste my answers into those cells, or figure out that way I don't have to calculate twice, right? So this was April 10. How many items did we buy?
$750.
We bought 750, all right? At what unit price?
$5.75.
Okay? So in this case, right? What is my total purchase price?
43.12.50.
43.12.50, all right? What was my freight?
$75.
It was $75, all right? Bringing me a grand total of total cost.
$43.87.50.
$43.87.50. All right, good. So once again, if you want to, you can use the fill handle tool, right? If you click on this cell right here that has the formula in it, you can see that little green little triangle. Roll your mouse over there until it becomes a black symbol, and you could drag this formula down. All right, so then there you go. That means the next time I enter in any information here, it will automatically calculate for me. Okay, so that's one thing that you can use in this worksheet per se, because this worksheet we're looking at making our purchases only. Okay. All right, last but not least, what was the cost per item?
$5.85.
$5.85. Okay, and here we have our second batch. All right, so I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to pick a color, any color. So what color should we do this time? Is green okay?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, there. Now we have two batches, right? We have a yellow batch and a green batch. Okay. All right, so then now we've completed our calculations, we can now go ahead and post it to our journal, right? Because now I already did the calculations already, right? And if you want to, you can also cell reference from the workbook itself, right? If you have the calculations in the same workbook, you can just easily cell reference them over here, saying, well, I want this cell to be the same exact as that cell. So there you go, I copied it over. Or you can simply just type in your answers if you already know what it is. So for example, I know my freight was 75. And then therefore, I'm also going to use a calculation here just to ensure that I didn't fat finger anything, but just to make sure that my totals match up as well, right? That it should be $4,387.50, which I know is my total cost. And then once again, I'm also going to put a little description here that I purchased 750 units at $5.75 each. Okay, just as a reminder that's what I did. Okay, so there we have it. That is my journal for that one. All right, I've entered it into my inventory worksheet. Now let's go ahead and practice doing this on our own. So let's take a look at this one. So on April 20th, we purchased 200 units at $6 each, with the freight costing $20. Okay, so here, what do you guys want to do first? Do you want to go to the inventory worksheet, or do you want to go to the journal first?
The general journal.
Okay, we'll do the journal first, okay? So once again, it's April 20th. What should my journal look like? What accounts am I going to be using?
Purchase expense for $1,200.
Okay. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and save some time here by copying and pasting. So purchase expense for $1,200,
Freight for $20,
freight for $20.
and then accounts payable for $12.20.
Good. All right. And of course, I have a new description. I'm going to say that we purchased 200 units at $6 each. Okay. Then what's next? We're going to go to our inventory worksheet. Right? 420. All right. How many items did we purchase? 200 at $6 each. Oh, Excel's picking up my pace here. So, well, actually, here we go. I put the formula already. I dragged it down, so now it calculated for me that it should be $1,200. My freight was $20,
Yes.
and therefore my total cost is going to be $1,220. So in this case, what is going to be my cost per item?
$6.10.
$6.10, right? We take the total cost of $12.20 and divided it by evenly through 200 units. So now that we have this one, let's pick another color. Let's do blue. There we have it. Now we have introduced a third batch, and we're going to refer it either to the blue batch, or we can refer to this batch as $6.10. All right. Okay, so second to last, right? On April 25th, we purchased another 500 units at $6.25, with the freight costing you $50, okay? And here's something that we need to make a note as well. On April 30th, we should have a total of 600 units, okay? I'm just throwing that out there. But first, let's go ahead and take care of the transaction that happened on the 25th of April. We purchased 500 units at $6.25 each, with the freight costing you $50. All right? So where do you want to go first?
General journal.
Okay, so general journal. All right. So what should my journal look like?
Purchase expense for $31.25.
And freight was 50.
It's $31.75.
Good. All right. And once again, we have another description that's different, right? In this case, we purchased 500 units at $6.25 each. Okay? So good. There we journalized it. So now let's go ahead and enter this information into our inventory worksheet. So now we have a fourth batch, right? On April 25th, we purchased 500 units at $6.25 each, which does in fact give us $31.25. Okay. We have a freight of 50, which gives us a grand total of $3,175. Okay. So then what is going to be my cost per item here?
$6.35.
$6.35. Okay. Now, I'm gonna make this batch. I'm gonna pick orange. Hope that's okay. So there you go, orange. So now we have 4 different batches, right? And I associate them with colors. So we can kind of say, well, the yellow batch came first, right? And the orange batch came last. All right. So we completed our journal. We completed our inventory worksheet. Now, once again, here's something that you need to know, right? At the end of the month, you have a total of 600 units on hand. All right. So once again, now that we've dealt with the top part of our inventory worksheet, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to the bottom half. And this is where most of your calculations are going to come into play. All right. We know for a fact that ending inventory, right? We were given that someone went down to the basement and took a physical count and said that you had 600 units left. Okay. So I'm just going to type that in for now. Because now I need to figure out the rest of my calculations. Okay, so here, let's go ahead and this is where I'm going to have you guys do equal sum. Now, there are many ways that you could do it, right? You could just type in your formula equal, right? That usually activates your equation. Sum, you could tab it to activate the formula, or you could just do a parentheses, whatever you feel like, and press enter to calculate your total quantity, right? Or I can just select and highlight and look down at the bottom, and I have my auto sum right here. That tells me right here, and I can just type it in. Whatever makes it easier for you to do. Now, I like to do equal sum because in this case, if I need to add anything or change anything, if I made a typo or a fat fingered a number here and there, I can easily fix my sum without having to type it in again. So I'm going to make sure I highlight enough cells to go ahead and determine, right? And then when I press enter, I have 2,450 items left, right? I totaled up my column here. I added up all of my 4 batches of inventory I purchased, right? 1,000 plus 750 plus 200 plus 500 gives me a total of 2,450. And the great thing about this formula is that you are able to drag and copy across the cells here. All right. So that's what's cool about that. So instead of having to go to this column and typing in my equal sum, it will automatically do it for me. Now, of course, I don't need the unit price. That's not something I need. But I do need to know what my total purchase price was, what my total freight was, and what my total cost was. All right. And I'm going to format it in $ so I can kind of visualize what I'm looking at. Okay. So here, by doing that formula and bringing it across over, I'm basically having it tell me that I want the sum of this column, the sum of this column, and the sum of this column. All right. So again, Excel can do your calculations a lot quicker. All right. Now that I have the sum of each column, right? Now I can go ahead and start filling in my net purchases right here. So we're going to fill in one at a time. So quantity. How much in quantity did I make a total purchase for?
24.50.
$24.50. All right. And purchase price, how much did it cost me? For just the purchase price only.
The 13,637.50.
Correct. Okay. All right. So in this, once again, when we're looking at our calculations here, on the left panel, it kind of tells you what you need to do. All right. As far as your calculations. So how I'm going to show you is that for your purchase returns and allowances, once again, I'll show you this when we wrap up our chapter 5 exercise, when we learn all the concepts. I'll throw that in there so we can practice what happens when we do purchase returns and allowances. So in this case, we have 0. We don't have anything. So what this subtotal is supposed to be is, it's supposed to be, your formula is going to be your total purchases subtract any returns or any allowances. So as you can see in parentheses, it has a little minus sign here, right? Because if you think about it in context, right? You made a purchase, but one of these days you decided to return some of the stuff. So if that's the case, you're not going to have the same amount that you started out with, right? You're going to have less. So here, once again, if the formula applies for quantity, it also applies for the cost as well, right? If I purchase a total of this and I end up refunding this amount back, right? So I'm going to subtract it out of my total cost to give me a subtotal. But in this case, I have 0. So they're going to be equal the same, right? Then the next line we have is freight. Freight does not affect quantity, right? It represents a 0. However, it does increase your cost on the cost side, right? In this case, what was my total freight that I calculated? What was my total freight that I charged?
245.
245, right? So I'm going to copy and paste that right there, 245, right? And the idea here is that you're going to add these quantities together because, once again, freight increases your cost. So this formula, right, for quantity, you're going to add your 250 plus 0, which gives you 2450. And same thing here. We're going to add these quantities together. We're going to add the 13,637.50 and we're going to add the $245 to get a grand total net purchases price of $13,882.50, which once again, we also solved up here, right? We know that it should equal $13,882.50, right? That's our checking point right there. That our total net purchases match our total cost. All right. So now we have this section here. And now let's move on to the next section. Once again, we're assuming that we're starting inventory for the very first time, so we don't have any beginning inventory. Okay. However, we did solve for our net purchases from right above. We solved that my net purchases was 2,450 items, costing me a grand total of $13,882.50, right? So then we're going to apply that formula, right? What's the goods available? Your goods available is going to be equal to your beginning balance of inventory plus any net purchases, right? But in this case, I don't have any beginning inventory, so therefore it should reflect the same. Okay, so this is my total amounts that I have available to sell. All right, and now that we're given this piece of information, right, someone went down to the basement on April 30th and told you that you only have 600 units left. So now I'm ready to calculate my cost of goods sold. So here, what is going to be, how many items should I have sold? If I start out with 2,450 and I have 600 left, how many items did I sell?
1,850.
1850.
1850. Yes, so doing this calculation here, right? If we know that we take our goods available and we subtract out our ending balance, right? That's exactly what my formula says right here. I'm going to get 1850. Okay. All right, and there I have it. That was just solving for my quantity. Now the question is, I need to start calculating my cost per item or my total cost of goods sold in terms of dollar value. So now we are focusing on one type of costing method, right? We're looking at first in are going to be the first ones that we sell out first. So what I like to do here is just so that I can create some kind of running balance and also recognize that how many more items I need to sell, I'm going to go ahead and indicate this little formula right here. I'm going to take a sum of this column right here because this is going to be my workspace. This is where I'm going to start calculating my cost of goods sold. All right? And so every time I enter in a value here, it's going to calculate for me a total running balance. Or in this case, it's going to keep track of what my total is for the items that I sold. Okay? So instead of having to keep it in your mind or having to calculate in your head, you could do it right here and it will save you a lot of time. Okay? So let's take a look at this, right? If we're doing FIFO, right, and we need to sell a total of 1850 items, all right? So let's take a look at our first batch, all right? Our first batch of yellow. How many items do I have in my first batch?
1,000.
I have exactly 1,000. So with that being said, I can just go ahead and take that whole entire batch of yellow and I'm going to put it here. So whole batch of yellow for 1,000 items, right? What's the cost per item for my yellow batch? $5.10, right? And it's up to you if you want to do this. But since I know for a fact that I'm taking the whole batch, I know that it's going to cost me a total of my $5,100, okay? So you can take a shortcut there by saying, I don't need to put a formula in here because I know that it's going to cost me a total of 1,000. Cost me for the total of 5,100 because I'm selling the whole batch or I'm getting rid of the whole batch, okay? And once again, I can use the batches, the colors to associate where the batch came from. But in this case, I know for a fact I used my yellow batch. All right, so it's up to you if you want to color code it. I know that I carried this number from up here and I dragged it down here. Okay, so there you go. I sold my first 1,000 items. How many more do I need to go? So here I have a grand total of 1,000 items that I've sold. How many more do I need to sell?
850.
850. All right. So in this case, I'm not going to do anything here. I'm just going to leave my batches as is, right? But if you'd like, you can use the strike through font if you want to keep track of your ideas that way. That way you don't have to affect anything, right? You don't need to delete anything. You could just cross them out. However way that you try to manage keeping track of your inventory, or saying I got rid of my yellow batch. In this case, I know I got rid of my yellow batch because I linked my colors down below. I know I got rid of it. All right. So if I have 850 more items to sell. What's the next batch I'm going to be selling?
Your green batch,
My green batch. And how many items do I have there?
750.
I have 750. So I'm definitely going to be taking the whole batch of 750 here. And this batch costs me how much per item?
585.
585. Good. And once again, if you want to, what was the total cost of that batch that we're selling here? This the whole 750 at $5.85. How much was the total cost of that?
4387.50.
$43.87.50. And once again, because I used the whole batch, you could just cell reference it. But in this case, I'm going to also say that, well, this was batch green, and I used it. Okay. So now let's take a look. I have a total of 1,750 items sold. And right now, because I threw my equal sum formula and I dragged it across, right? That means it's giving me a running balance right here telling me this is my total that I've racked up so far. By taking my 750 and I'm adding them all up together right now, I've sold a total of $9,487.50. Okay? However, I only sold 1750. How many more do I need to sell to get to 1850?
100.
100, right? Right here, I know 100. Okay? Now let's take a look. We only have 2 batches available, my green batch and my orange batch. I'm sorry, my blue batch and my orange batch. Which batch am I going to take out from?
The blue.
Blue. Do I have enough to sell 100 items?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. However, I'm not going to take the whole batch. I have to calculate my actual cost per item. So in this case, what is my actual cost per item here for the blue batch?
$6.10.
$6.10. So therefore, when I do my calculation, right, if I take 100 and I multiply it by my $6.10, what should I get in grand total for the total cost?
610.
610. And I know for a fact I took this away from my blue batch. Okay. So there we have it. Now I have a grand total of 1850 I sold. Sorry, I'm trying to. There you go. 1850 I sold, right? It consisted my yellow batch, green batch, and blue batch. Now I've also calculated the total of that, right? I added together my 5100 with my 4387.50 plus my 610 to get me a grand total of 10,097.50. So once again, I know for a fact that this is my total cost of goods sold. All right? Now we need to figure out what our ending inventory is. All right? So looking at our batches above, I know for a fact I still have some of my blue left and I have my 500 remaining, right? Because I have a total of 600 left, right? I know for a fact I sold only 100 from my blue. So you can, once again, calculate it on an individual, right? You know for a fact that 100 times 610 gives you 610. So you can calculate it on the side. Or you can use your little window here to display what your remaining total is. Okay? So you could do 610 plus my 3,175 to get my total ending balance. Or the easiest way to do this is you already given a few things here. You're given a total of goods available. And we just calculated our total that we sold. So in this case, I can simply take my formula for ending balance, which is my goods available, subtract out my cost of goods sold, and here I would get $3,785, right? I can also do that, right? If I were to do this on the side, I could say, what was it? What is 610 plus 3175, and I would get the same exact answer, 3,785. So you can calculate either or, but at the end of the day, it's just quicker and easier to just go ahead and take your goods available and just subtract out your cost of goods sold to get your ending inventory. It's a lot quicker, especially when you're dealing with multiple units here. So in this case here, all right? So we completed our inventory worksheet. Any questions on how to do it?
No.
Okay. So once again, one thing that we need to do is we completed our inventory worksheet. We have the necessary things that we need to have in order to complete question number 2, which is number 2 says you're going to do a conversion entry using the information from above. Convert the ending inventory on April 30th. Okay. So, journal. Okay, and let's take a look at my inventory worksheet. We have every piece of information to fill in for our inventory, for our conversion entry. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and complete our conversion entry, right? We have to recognize a few things, right? If we're converting from a purchase expense or an expense to an asset, and also thinking about, well, we can't convert everything because we started out with 2,450 items, right? We purchased all those items, but we sold some along the way. So in this case, what is my journal going to look like? I have an ending inventory, right? I know I should have 600 units, and I know I sold 1850. So how am I going to empty out my expenses and dump them accordingly to my inventory and my cost of goods sold? Right? How am I going to do that? So in this case, when we look at inventory, right, I didn't specify exactly what I bought. I just said I bought units. All right. So in this case, our general rule of thumb is if it's not descriptive, or if it's not specified, your initial idea is you're going to place it straight into inventory. Okay. What else am I going to be taking a look at?
Cost of goods sold.
Cost of goods sold, exactly what we calculated, right? Cost of goods sold. And what are going to be my credit accounts? What am I zeroing out?
Your revenue,
Not your, we didn't talk about revenues.
the net price.
Okay, what do we call that? What did we originally journalize our inventory as?
I don't know. I forgot.
Purchase expense.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we originally journalized our inventory as purchase expense, and we also associated freight expense. Okay, so if you look at our journal above, right, every time we made a purchase of inventory, we placed it into our purchase expense. Now we're converting it into actual inventory. Okay, so once again, what was the calculated amount that I solved for my ending inventory in total cost wise? What was my total cost of my ending inventory?
10,000, 10,097.
And that's your cost of goods sold. My ending inventory.
3785.
37, yes. So the total cost of my ending inventory is going to be my 3785. All right? Now, Erica, what is my total cost of my goods sold?
$10,097.50.
Yes. This is what I calculate that I sold because because it's my cost of goods sold. That's what I'm solving for. So yes, it's the 10,097. All right. What was my total purchase price of inventory, right? Just the total purchases without excluding freight.
13,600.
19,000. I don't know where you're getting that 19,000.
No, 13,000.
13,637. Yes, right? Because we have another section where we're going to include the freight, right? So the freight here is going to be whatever I calculated here, which was my 245, right? You could reference it here too, right? I solved right here that my total purchases alone was 13,635, 37.50. Whereas my freight expense, which is a separate cost me $245, right? And then now, before we can do anything, right, or to continue to the next one, we need to verify one thing and one thing only, right? Do our total debits match our total credits? In this case, I have 13,882.50 on the left and 13,882.50 on the right. I just added up the top columns, and here tells me that I've zeroed out all of my purchases and my freight expense, and I converted into what I have left in inventory as well as what I sold. All right. Okay. So description here, right? You can choose whatever you'd like to say. You could say you have 80 items left on hand, or conversion entry. Okay, so in this case, I'll go ahead and throw a description here. Conversion entry to convert 80 unit, 600. We're looking at 600 units on hand. All right. Whatever description that you feel that's necessary. You can even say that I sold a total of 1850 if you would like. Okay? Your description is whatever you want to place in here. So in this case, I'm just recognizing that I've converted 600 units into my inventory, and that's, to me, that's good enough. All right? Any questions in regards to this?
No.
Okay. All right. So for the next set of questions here, we're going to be continuing on our inventory with our exercises. So now we're going to be doing the second month, which is month of May. Here's an indicator here that on April 30th that you had 600 units on hand. So this is where we're going to bring our inventory across on a new worksheet, and we're going to start with a beginning balance. Now here, I don't want you to journalize because it's rinse and repeat. As you notice, every time we journalize our entries, right, it's all the same thing. It's copy paste over and over and over again. So in this case, you've already done this part. Only thing I'm going to have you do is just do the conversion entry at the end on month 2. But that's it. I'm not going to have you guys journalize the rest. So we're going to go straight to the inventory worksheet to solve for our inventory. So in this case, right, we're given that on April 30th, you have a total of 600 units on hand. Now we know that by looking at our previous worksheet, right, we know that we have an orange batch for 500 and we have a remaining of 100 in the blue batch, all right? Exactly how you have it like this, you're going to transfer it over into your new worksheet. So once again, we're looking at a new inventory worksheet. Every single time you start a new period. So in this case, we're looking at this. Now, this is the section I was talking about, which is your inventory on hand. This is what you have to hold your beginning balances. Okay, so right here on the right, you have a little section that says inventory on hand, quantity, and etc., right? This is where I want you to add your 600 units into this section right here. Now, exactly how I've mentioned before, right? We're going to copy it over as if we're leaving the batches exactly how they were in its order. So we know for a fact that from our inventory worksheet, we have 100 of the blue and 500 of the orange. So I'm going to copy and paste that over into here, or I can just type it in. So in this case, I know of 100 of the blue and I have 500 of the orange, right? And we know that the blue cost $6.10, while the orange cost me $6.35. All right. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and enter in my formula that I'm going to take my quantity times my cost to get me my total cost right here of my 610 and my 3,175. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is in my total right here, I'm going to go ahead and go across here and I'm going to do an equal sum formula. Just so, when I transfer over my information, that when I do my beginning balances, I'm actually going to copy it from this cell up here, right? I'm going to copy that I for surely have 600 units beginning and the total cost, right, should be my 3,785. Okay, and we know that from our previous worksheet. We know that that's what our ending balance is, which because we're starting a new period, your ending will become your beginning. So here, just to double confirm, make sure you didn't do any typos, that at the end of the day, your beginning inventory is going to be 600 units at 3,785. And that's exactly what I copied and pasted here, is that I have 600 at 3,785. And for kicks and stuff, I'm going to also transfer the colors over just so that I know that these batches are in the same exact order. Okay? So, in the same exact order. So there we are. We have a blue batch and a orange batch. Okay? That's exactly what I transferred over. So this is my beginning balance right here. Okay? Now we can actually start going ahead and filling in the rest of information. So on May 5th, we purchased a total of 500 units at $6.25 with a total freight of $50. So inventory worksheet 2. Now, this is where you have to keep a fine difference between the two. Your middle section right here, or your main course section right here, is only for purchases. All right? The right side is your beginning inventory or your inventory on hand. You're never going to put your beginning balances in your purchases or your purchases in your inventory on hand. Okay, so that's the thing that you have to do. You need to separate your transactions here. But we know that on May 5th, we purchased 500 units at $6.25 each with a freight of 50. So here, let's go ahead and calculate our totals, our total purchases. Okay. So what's my total purchase price?
$31.75.
$31.25. And then you calculated the total already, which was adding the freight to give you the $31.75.
Okay, I did it by the 635.
Okay. Well, we're not looking. This is a new batch of inventory. We just end up buying the same amount for the same price. So in this case, this is a new batch of inventory.
Okay.
Okay. So in this case, there you go. $31.75 is my total cost. So what is going to be my cost per item here?
$6.35.
$6.35. So once again, we bought the same exact batch of inventory for the same exact price. Okay. And in this case, what color do you want to make this new batch of inventory? What do you want to make this color?
Green?
Green?
Yeah.
You got it. Okay. So there we have it, green. Right? So then, what happened on May 10? We purchased an additional 800 units at $6 with the freight costing you $80. So May 10, 800 at $6 with a freight of 80. So what's my total purchase price here?
4,800.
Yes, 4,800. Okay. What's my total cost going to be?
4,880.
4,880. And then therefore, what is going to be my cost per item?
610.
$6.10. Okay. So once again, I'm going to, now that this is a new batch of inventory, we're going to color it. What color do you want to do this time?
Let's do purple.
Purple. Okay. Right? Oh, there you go. Purple. Okay. So that's that. Right? Next one that we have is May 20th. We purchased an additional 300 units at $6.15 with the freight costing you 15 cents. So inventory worksheet number 2. It is May 20th. 300 units at $6.15 with a freight of 15. So what is my purchase price?
$18.45.
$18.45 plus my freight to give me a total cost of,
$18.60.
all right, bringing my cost per item to be
$6.20.
$6.20. All right. So once again, if you are able to just enter in your formulas ahead of time, this stuff will come a lot easy. All you have to do is just add in your values and you can calculate this pretty quick and easy. I'm going to go ahead and make this one red. All right. All right. Second to last, right? On 25th of May, we purchased an additional 100 units at $6.30 with the freight costing $5. So let's go to inventory worksheet. It is May 25th. We purchased 100 units at $6.30 with the freight costing you $5. So here, what's my total purchase price?
630.
630 plus $5.
635.
635, which then makes my cost per item to be
$6.35.
$6.35. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll make this no, that's green, my bad.
Light blue.
Light blue. We already have a light blue up here. Oops. Control Z. Can you tell the difference? That's yellow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So there we have it. We have a total of 6 batches that we're dealing with, right? Because our beginning inventory. What happens when what's the idea when we have beginning inventory?
You said what's the ideal of having beginning inventory?
Yeah, like what happens to the beginning inventory when we sell our
It,
items?
it got sold
It's
first in, first out.
correct. It's gonna be sold first, right? So let's see. Then on May 31st, you have a total of 400 units on hand. So that means someone went down to the basement and calculated and counted that you have a total of 400 items. So, inventory worksheet. Since we know we have 400 items as our ending inventory, I'm just going to make a note there. All right. So now let's go ahead and add up our totals for our net purchases. Okay. So equals sum. What's my total quantity that I purchased?
That's 1,700. Okay.
1,700. Yes, good. Right? What's my total purchase price?
Should be 10,400.
10,400. Good. What was my total freight?
150.
150. And last but not least, what was my total cost?
10,550.
10,550. Good. All right, so we're gonna answer those questions again down below. Right? These are your total sums here. All right. So let's go ahead and solve for my net purchases. Okay, starting from the first one. In total quantity, how many did I purchase?
1,700.
1,700 at a total purchase price of 10,400. We don't have any returns, discounts, or allowances. So once again, the subtotal is going to be your 1,700 minus out any purchase returns or any allowances. So in this case, we don't have any, right? It's just going to reflect as the same number that you have for your purchases. Okay. Freight. Freight doesn't add anything to quantity, but it does add to the cost. So what was my total freight?
150.
150. So once again, we're going to figure out what our net purchases is. So we're going to take our subtotal plus our freight, right? In quantity, it doesn't change, but in total cost, it does. It is now 10,550. Okay. So that's our net purchases, right? Now we have beginning inventory, right? What was our beginning balance?
Money or quantity?
Both.
So it would be the 600 and the amount is 3,785.
Good, correct. So here, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to carry the beginning balances from the inventory on hand and carry it over to this side of the worksheet. So we know it's 600 items at $3,785. Okay. Net purchases, which we solved from the scenario above, right? We calculated what our net purchases was, which was for the 1,700 at the 10,550, right? So now we need to calculate our goods available because now we need to include everything that we have in total. So adding our purchases plus our beginning balance to get a grand total of 2,300 units available to sell. All right? And that's going to apply the same thing here. If it's going to cost me for the 600 units for 3,785, I'm going to add that to my total purchases to give me a grand total available to sell for $14,335 even. All right? So that's my total goods available. All right? Now, of course, I have these numbers here, and I have leftover remaining 400 units. Therefore, how many units did I sell?
1,900.
1,900. All right. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and create a running balance in my little workspace here. Okay. So let's go ahead and claim all of these cells here. Okay. And it's just an equal sum, so then I don't have to keep adding them together, or so then I can just keep adding things into those cells and it will calculate for me automatically. So equal sum in the quantity column and the total cost column. Right? So now that we are ready to calculate our cost of goods sold, we're using FIFO, right? We know that when we look at our purchases of inventory, right, we know that these came after, right? Because when we start calculating our cost of goods sold, we need to recognize that we have beginning balances. And our beginning balances pretty much converts into these batches that we've had previously. So they become our starting point. So in this case, if I'm going to be calculating my cost of goods sold, which batch am I going to take out from first?
The 100 at 610.
The 100 at 610. Okay, so once again, if I go ahead and calculate 100 at 610, right? Or I should cell reference that. Sorry. Let me do that again. All right, I'm going to cell reference it. So we're going to start with our very, very, very beginning of our inventory, right? Because we know we started off with 610. Okay. So therefore, I have a total of $600 and 610 right now for selling my very first 100 items. Okay. That was my first one, and I'll even associate it so I know what batches I am using. So this one was the blue one. Okay. Now that I sold my first 100, how many more do I need to sell?
1,800.
1,800. So what's the next batch I'm going to be taking out from?
You're gonna take from the blue batch, the 800, the 4,800. No, that's a purchase price. The quantity 800.
Okay, so this one, right, is part of our purchases.
Right.
We still have beginning inventory, right? We only got rid of the blue batch for 100.
Okay, the 500.
The 500, yes. From which one? Green or orange? They're both the same price.
From the green. I'm sorry, from the orange.
From the orange, that's correct, because this one came before those ones. These ones are all new purchases. So we need to get rid of whatever we have in our beginning inventory first. So in this case, right, I'm going to get rid of my 500 units here, which was a total of
3175.
yes, 3175. Okay. So now that we're gonna get rid of our orange batch, right? We still have a lot of ways to go, right? We still have a lot more that we have to sell. So in this case, right, I'm already sold 600, so I need to get to 1900. So what's the next batch I'm going to be selling?
500, the green one.
The
For
green one
625.
for 620 for 635. Okay. So once again, since we know that we need to take the whole batch anyways, right? We're going to take the whole batch of the 500 at the 635 to sell out the whole entire batch right here. Okay? And I'm also going to make a note here that this was the green batch. Okay, okay. I think I used the lighter green. Okay. So now I sold a total of 1,100. How many more do I need to go?
800,
800. So,
which the blue badge.
okay, which is good. Yes. So, 800 from this one, right? We're going to get rid of all of it. So, in this case, here we go. We know for a fact that is $6.10 each, and we're getting rid of the entire batch here. We're not doing a little bit of it or some of it, we're doing all of it. So there you go. I think it was this one I picked. No, never mind, it was the other one.
Purple.
Yeah, it was this one, right? Okay, so there we have it. Now we totaled up our sums, right? We added up the columns. So I have a total of 1,900 that I sold. And it cost me in grand total $11,840. So once again, I bring that a value over here. And therefore, what should be my ending inventory? Okay. There's two ways that you can solve for it. What is the total cost of my ending inventory?
1,100. No, minus the for 1,500. Oh, the total cost.
Yeah, the total cost. So in this case, right, we could take a look at our batches of inventory, right? We have a total of 400 left. By looking at the red batch, we know that it cost me $18.60 for 300. And then the last batch that we have here is for the 635, right? That's their total cost. So you could solve it this way too by saying, well, you can add those two numbers together, right? Or the easiest way is to take your goods available and subtract out your cost of goods sold because you're dealing with multiple batches. So in this case, you'll get more quicker results by taking those two numbers that you already have and subtracting them out. Right? So we get a total of $2,495. Okay? So there we have it. We've completed our inventory worksheet, right? And this time we had beginning inventory, right? And here we did our calculations, right? We solved for our net purchases. We added our beginning balances to give us a grand total of 2,300 units that is available to sell at $14,335. And here we calculated using Fifo, right? First in, first out. Right here, we took a look at getting rid of our beginning balances first and then slowly making our way to dive into our net purchases that we've purchased along the way in order. From the first ones that we purchased were the first ones that we got rid of. Okay? And here we have it. Conclusion is all here. So, last but not least, question number 4 asks you to compute the conversion entry for the month of May 31st. All right? So let's take a look at our journal. All right? I'm going to go ahead and skip over here and say now it's May 31st. Right? So what should my journal look like this time?
Start with inventory and cost of goods sold.
Good. Inventory and cost of goods sold. What else?
The purchase expense and the freight expense.
Good. What else is that going to be everything that we're going to have here, or are we going to have an additional an account?
Gonna use ending balance? No.
Was there anyone left on hand? I can't remember.
Okay.
Oh, you'll use inventory for the beginning balance?
Correct. We need to also tie in that we got rid of our beginning inventory. So in this case, what you're going to see here is that we're going to be using the same exact account because there is no such thing as beginning balance for inventory and ending balance for inventory, right? They're all the same thing because at the end of the day, it's whatever you purchase, right? You're just tapping, but the way that we organize it is that you're going to recognize your ending first. And at the end, you're going to recognize your beginning inventory here. So that's only the difference. Now you can put in parentheses because I'm going to allow you guys to do that because it's practice purposes only for you guys to be able to, help you guys understand which inventories come first, right? I'm going to allow you to do parentheses ending and then parentheses beginning, all right? So just like this, I'm gonna allow you guys to be able to say ending, and then this is beginning. Okay. So let's talk about our ending balance first. What was my total cost of my ending balance on my worksheet?
$24.95.
Correct. What was my total cost of goods sold?
$14,335. No, it's
14.
available. Sold. $11,840.
Correct. Right? What was my total purchase price? What was my total purchases without my freight?
10,400.
2,400.
No, 10,400. Right?
19. Oh, sorry. Wait, no, you said 19?
No, he said 10,000.
Oh, sorry. Okay, 10,004. Okay, good. 10,400. Good. And then what was my freight?
$150.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least, what was my beginning balance?
$37.85.
37.85. All right. Let's go ahead and equal sum our quantities here, just to our debits and credits here, just to make sure that we match on both ends. Okay. So I have a total of 14,335 on the left side, and I have 14,335 on the right side. So therefore, my journals is complete. I have no discrepancies. My debits match my credits on both sides, and I perfectly journalize this, right? I have my beginning balance here at the end, and then I have my ending balance at the top, my cost of goods sold, my purchase expense, and my freight expense. So in this case, we've completed this conversion entry. All right. Any questions here?
No, not for me.
Okay. I'm throwing a note there saying that I'm converting my 400 units I have remaining into my inventory. Okay. So, yes. So, in this case, right, if you guys remember from chapter 4, why are you looking at cost value versus quantity value? Because of our monetary assumption, right? You can't journalize 400 units. You must journalize it in terms of dollar value. How much did it cost you in grand total? But in your journal, under your description, that's where you could say, well, I purchased X amount of units, right? So, for example, up here, right, I purchased 500 units at $6.25 each. But what it cost me in grand total was my 3,175. All right, so these is where this is an example of why we're using the monetary assumption, is because when we're dealing with accounting, we're looking in terms of dollar value versus quantity. Quantity is quantitative, right? It gives you the idea, but it doesn't tell you the value, the total amount, especially when you're dealing with accounting, right? Because accounting is dealing with money at on hand, right? When you spend the money, how much did you spend? When you acquire assets, how much did it cost you in grand total? All right. So, any other questions? If not, we are pretty much done for today.